How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Fantasy NBA Tonight live stream. I'm Doug Potts, Hoopball Pro and host for tonight's show. You can find me at Twitter at Kentucky Pro Basketball. That's KY Pro Basketball. I'm here with a couple regulars on the show here, Santino and Will. How you guys doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Just taking it one day at a time. Weather's starting to pick up. It's been really chilly, but the sun's shining out, and looking forward to the future and see if things can improve. Yeah.
You're in New York, right, Santino?
Connecticut, but real close to New York.
Yeah. In North Carolina, everything's going pretty well. Not too many cases around here. Things are opening up. Hopefully it stays good.
Good. Yeah. Hopefully everybody out there staying safe and adhering to the standards that they're being put out there, and everybody's moving on and trying to stay a positive attitude. So yep. We're here to talk a little bit of basketball tonight. If you guys noticed in this social media realm, there's been a lot of talk the last couple of years about NBA expansion. CJ McCollum talked about it on his podcast with Adam Silver. And just not too long ago, Shaq was mentioning how he heard rumors that there was a team that's going to be moving cities. I'm not sure what team that is, but you guys have been hearing much about expansion out there?
Yeah, I know. One thing that stuck with me for a little while is when Adam Silver took over and the late and when he took over, when the late Stern was talking, he said he thinks that Silver's lasting legacy is going to be expanding the brand globally and get into possibly an international team or et cetera like that. So just going off of that, there's been a lot of expansion talk. I know it's starting to pick up steam even lately with all of what's going on and how it's affecting the economy and the NBA owners in general. They're thinking about the thoughts getting more prevalent of maybe we should try and get more revenue streams out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely heard a lot of stories about Seattle, and I remember the late David Stern was talking about that's one of the things he wanted to see happen, in the near future. And like just about every interview he was going on, he was talking about wanting to get a team back in Seattle, whether it's expansion or if a team was to move, because Sacramento was thinking about moving when they got new owners. So, it could be moving or it could be expansion, and it's so much talent in the league right now. I think it's about the time where we can get some expansion in this league.
Yeah, I think with a lot of the revenue streams, like Will was saying, in this time where we're not even playing basketball, it's not even being televised, no fans in the stands, it sounds like coming up if we do kick it back off. They need to find a way to get some extra money in there. And I think that growing globally right now may be a bit more of a struggle due to safety concerns.
Travel.
Yeah, travel. But I think, bringing it home to domestically and, getting a domestic team in, and I think it would be a great idea. And it sounds like a lot of people are talking about it. So what do you guys think? What are some pros and cons about expanding?
Con would be just less competitiveness. Anytime you add more teams to the league, it expands the player pool, but expanding the player pool just adds less all-stars to a certain amount of teams. Mm-hmm. But that said, it also expands the player pool. There's more teams that are there, and there's more fan bases that can attend localized games. Myself in Connecticut, we don't have a major sports team. The last one we had was the Whalers, but we're right next to Massachusetts and New York, so we have all those options. But anytime you can add an NBA team or an NFL team or a major sports franchise to your community, you're going to see the uptick in a lot of stuff from a revenue standpoint. And it's just fun to add new teams into the mix as well.
Right.
Yeah, totally agree. He covered it all. I would just say mainly, dispersing talent. So some teams, the talent will be thinner, but it's also a lot of talented players that are on the benches of these teams that don't get minutes. So those guys will be able to get some more playing time, show some more of their skills. And I know like a lot of people, some people can't stand watching bad teams. So they say we need to contract instead of expand. But, I think as much talent as we're getting right now in this league, it's time for it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Some of the pros, I mean, obviously it's money. You've got, even if you don't sell tickets to the arenas right now, in the future, you certainly can, but you've got, revenue coming in from jerseys and, hats and clothing and fan signs and posters and everything else. So it's not just the seats, and then with the TV market being, I think, going to be a huge thing whenever the NBA does come back. You're going to have additional TV market revenue coming from that additional team or teams if you decide to expand. So it's all about the money. To grow the brand is another thing, and just reach a whole new market of fans. Will, like you guys were saying, some cities have pro teams, NFL, NHL. Some don't, like Connecticut. They don't have any pro teams. So just to grow that brand and get the NBA into living rooms via TV that aren't there already, I think is something that would definitely help the league right now. So what needs to happen, for the expansion to happen? For one, they need to select a city, right? But before they can do that, they need to select the league needs to get together and figure out what the expansion fees are going to be. And the league needs to approve it along with all the owners for approval. So to expand, they would have to have 23 of the current owners approve expansion. That's 75% has to be yay on expansion through all the owners. That's 23 teams. Getting 23 owners together, that's a big toll to haul. I don't know if that could happen.
Because then you talk about the owners themselves having to split revenue and split TV time and split all this stuff with two extra teams.
Mhm.
It would be fun for it to happen, but financially, I don't know how excited they want to be for that. But again, this is unprecedented times, and we're looking outside the box now. It's getting more prevalent than ever, I would assume, because they need to find a way to get that revenue back somehow, and this is the opportunity for them to do so at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think that the way that they're looking at right now, as far as there is a buy-in fee. Any team that joins the league, like in 2004 was the last expansion draft, and it was the Charlotte Bobcats at that time. Now, Will, I know you're close to there. Do you remember much of that expansion for the Bobcats?
I don't really. I mean, I just remember when the Hornets left, we were all highly upset, and we wanted our team back, and it was campaigns, bring the buzz back,
Right.
but I don't remember the details in it,
Well, I actually was a season ticket holder for the Charlotte Bobcats. I was in the military stationed out there in North Carolina, and I bought season tickets. Now, I did sell every single ticket except for the Lakers game. I kept the Lakers game, and I went to that one. But they expanded in 2004, and the buy-in for them in 2004 was $300 million that they had to pay the league to start a new team. Now, that $300 million didn't go to any players.
It's going to be over $1 billion now.
Yeah, it's going to be. So that $300 million went to all. It's a split between all the owners. Now, if you remember, the Clippers sold to Steve Ballmer for $2 billion, I think it was.
Yeah.
So, and some Times Magazine or Forbes said that New York Knicks were worth that, as well, and maybe $3 billion. So it's going to be a pretty substantial amount for a buy-in. And you got to think, if we're talking about two different teams expanding, one in the East, one in the West, that's $2 billion that they're bringing in to split up from all the owners. That's a lot of money.
That's a ton of money. I don't know if it'll get $2 billion depending on the location, because you're in Los Angeles, you're playing at Staples Center. I know that Clippers want to get their own home stadium very soon, but I don't know if I could see $2 billion but definitely over $1 billion guaranteed. Especially Seattle, that's a huge market right there, and that's probably one of the most teams. Vegas definitely over $1 billion. That's a lot of money for them, especially during these times that they're going to have to think about even more so to expand this.
Yeah, you're talking about $1 billion per team. If you had two teams come in, it's $1 billion per. Even at $1 billion per, that's $66 million per team that the owners would get to spend. And times like this, that $66 million sounds pretty intriguing.
And that's like the baseline, $1 billion.
Right.
That's pretty much the floor of what these expansion teams are going to cost.
Right.
So
exactly.
it's prevalent.
Yeah. So you times that by 2, and that's, 120 plus $132 million per team, so that's what it would take for the league to approve it. All the owners would have to come to get together, and the league would have to approve to expand. They'd have to vote on the expansion fee, what the buy-in would be, and they'd have to have 23 owners agree to it. So what do you think, Will? What do you think? Do you think that's possible?
I think it's possible because, especially during these times, because without the fans in the stands, the owners are going to be looking for extra revenue. So just like you guys explained, that $100+ million that they probably will be getting will make up for the fact that they'll be having to share in the future with 2 extra teams, So it's better for the league because even with the 2 new teams, they're going to be bringing in more viewers, more TV ratings. So I think if there's a time it's going to happen, the near future should be it.
Yeah, I agree. So if they did expand, there are some few teams that have been mentioned out there. So I'll throw a few of them up on the screen here. Possible teams that people are talking about: Las Vegas, Sin City. Now Las Vegas has an NHL team, I believe. They have a women's NBA team and football coming with the Raiders, I believe, right? Yep. Then you got Vancouver, which used to own a team. They had the Memphis, the Grizzlies used to be in Vancouver. It was the Vancouver Grizzlies. So that was pretty substantial. And
that didn't work out too well.
They didn't get it. They weren't getting the people in the stands, I think is what it was. So, but and
they were really bad though. So,
well, did they get better when they moved to Memphis?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. When they got the grind squad,
yeah. And in Kansas City's another city that's got a pro football team out there. They have the Chiefs out there. They have a pro baseball team. Do they have a hockey team out in Kansas City? I don't know. I don't follow hockey very much.
I don't really follow it either. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I know the Royals are out there. They won the World Series not so long ago, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then like you guys were saying, it's expanding globally. You've got Mexico City that's been talked about. The NBA did really well whenever they played some games down there the last few years, and then also London. Whether or not that's feasible to travel, I don't know. Today's times,
Yeah.
So, but those are some.
I think that'll be pushed back. Traveling overseas. I think they want to do it, but that's going to have to be pushed back for now. I think.
Yeah, a couple other ones I heard were like Cincinnati, possibly because they have major sports franchises in other sports.
Yeah.
Baltimore, same way. Another international one, France, Paris. I don't know how that would play out. And one that I want, Hartford.
There you go. Yeah, but, I've also heard Virginia as well. Virginia Beach or Richmond.
That'd be a pretty good market as well.
Yeah. So
I can't see Cincinnati because no one wants to go to Cleveland now as it is.
No, hold on a minute now.
I'm just saying.
That's pretty close. That's pretty close. So what are the teams that we're going to be working with here in our hoop ball expansion? I think that a couple teams that haven't been mentioned on the screen there that we'll throw up, and I'll go ahead and put them on the screen, and we will talk about them now. And that is Seattle Supersonics and Louisville, or better known for Kentucky Colonels from the ABA. So those are the 2 teams I think that we've all talked and we're going to roll with. What makes us chose those guys? Why do we choose those?
Well, Seattle, because
no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. They lost their team undeservedly, and they didn't get it back because OKC's fan base just showed up and went out, and they deserved a franchise of their own. But Seattle didn't deserve to lose it. And they're definitely at the top of the list when it comes to that. Louisville, that's what we're here for. This is how this idea came about. Right. Doug is trying to get a team in Louisville. He's one of the people that wants it in Kentucky. And Kentucky is one of the biggest basketball cities that doesn't have a major sports franchise. Louisville as a city, Kentucky as the state. But just like OKC, I think if Louisville or Kentucky, wherever it may go in there, if it gets its chance, I don't see how that fan base is not going to show out and not going to deserve it. Make it so that they need a franchise as well, and I think they're ready for it. If you watch any Louisville college basketball games or Kentucky college basketball games. Those fans are insane and they're exciting and they're there all the time, do the good and the bad. So that's a place that is deservedly of their first franchise.
Yeah. Now, Will, I know that you said that, Seattle is very popular, and I agree with you, Santino. That seems like everybody from the NBA players to the media, everybody it's kind of a no-brainer for Seattle. They are getting a new hockey arena next, I think 2021. They'll be start playing in a new arena out there. That arena is a dual-purpose arena, and it will be housing 18,000 seats for a basketball arena. So whether or not they're going to call it the Key Arena, I don't know, but it's the new arena that's going out there. So I think that's a lot of really good possibilities for Seattle out there, and a lot of people that are behind it as well. So
yeah,
that's a great thing. So, and like you said, Louisville is a little close and dear to my heart, but there's more reasons than just the fact that I'm here. The way I'm looking at it is if Seattle rolls out for the Western Conference, we need something in the Eastern Conference to balance it out. And there's talk about redoing the conferences and moving. Why is it that Memphis and New Orleans is in the West Coast, the Western Conference, when they're on the East Coast? So move them over. So, but in light of all this, I think we pick a Western Conference and we pick an Eastern Conference, and that's why we settled on Louisville. What do you think, Will? Do you think Louisville will be able to sustain it?
I think they would. Just like Santino said, their fans go crazy in Kentucky. And like when you think of college basketball, you think of Indiana, Kentucky, Carolina, so it's only right, y'all. If you had a professional NBA team, I'm sure you would turn out just like the Pacers, fan base would do. And I think it would be great.
If you guys remember, the Bucks were going to move a few years back. They were working out some issues with their arena and getting approval for their arena. And there was talk that Louisville was a good candidate for the moving of the Bucks. Now they got their arena figured out up there and they got funding for it from the city. But what we were pushing down here was the fact that we already have an NBA-ready arena down here. It's called the KFC Yum Center. It's already ready to go. University of Louisville actually plays in it right now. It houses 22,000 seats for a basketball arena, which is the largest in the NBA. We actually did sell out a preseason game there, and we've had a few preseason games there as well. So it's 20% higher television rating than the national average during the March Madness as well. Like you guys were saying, it's a great basketball state, and it's the basketball belt of the United States. So I think we would be able to sustain a team here. We already
The only negative I would see is, players want to go to big cities, So, like Cleveland, Milwaukee, some of the smaller states, they struggle with getting the talented players in there. But, they'll just have to draft well. Maybe they have to bring Coach Calipari on to coach the NBA team.
Well, and that's what I was thinking. If you had a team in Louisville, Kentucky, do you guys think that, all the players that played at Kentucky and played at Louisville and are now in the NBA, they love the fans here, and I think a lot of them would like to come back here, whether it be from their agents pushing for it or a trade or a free agency. So that's an option too, if we had a team. So, all right. So if we decided to go with Seattle and Louisville and the league decided to approve an expansion and the owners decided to say, we're going to have this, it'd be 32 teams instead of 30. How would that work out? So let's talk a little bit about how an expansion draft actually works. All right. So the first rule of an expansion draft is each NBA team that's currently in the NBA, every 30 of the 30 teams, they can protect up to 8 players on their roster. So they'll go through their roster and they'll discuss, so who's our top 8 players, whether it be from contracts or, playing time or, stats or ability or team chemistry. They'll protect 8 players on their roster. Now, like you were saying, Will, I think it was you that said, a lot of people, down on the bench don't even get play time, and then expanding would give them that opportunity. So some players might relish the idea of being able to be unprotected in this player pool. That's something that they may look at. So that's the first rule there. The second rule, each expansion team may only choose from unprotected players in the player pool. So an expansion team like Louisville or Seattle can't go and pick LeBron James, for instance, if LA decides to protect LeBron because he's protected players. So they can only pick from the unprotected players pool. Now, that also goes into fact with the free agents. So if someone is a free agent that summer, the expansion teams can't select those players either. Okay, so restricted free agents will automatically become free agents if they are selected by the expansion team. That's another situation. So there's a lot of rules when it comes into it, and all it depends on the collective bargaining agreement. Each expansion team selects a minimum of 14 players and a maximum of 19 players. Now, as you guys are sitting there looking at that, I'm sure you're aware you only start the season with 15 players on your roster and 2 two-way contracts. So if a team was to select 19 players, they would have to cut it down pretty good before the season actually started through training camp and whatnot. So, all right, number 4 rule: expansion team may select no more than one player from an existing NBA team.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yes. So say for instance, Alex Caruso and Kyle Kuzma are not protected by LA. They're in the player pool. Louisville cannot select both of those players. They have to pick one of those players to select from. So one could go to Louisville and one could go to Sonics, but they couldn't select on the both same team. And the 5th and final rule that we're going to discuss here is the salary cap restrictions are a non-factor in expansion draft. So if the salary cap, say, is set at $102 million, that doesn't calculate in the draft. Now, by the time the season starts, the team may have to pay luxury taxes on that if they go over that 102 mil, but they will not have to be limited on their draft due to the salary cap. So those are the 5 rules. What do you guys think? You think that those are easy to play by?
I think you summed them up really well. Like it can be overwhelming and complicated, but you explained it perfectly. And I think we're ready to roll. And shout out to Pamela Potts. You got a Louisville fan over there with you, Doug.
Nice, very good. Yeah, I got to love that support. Very good.
Yeah, I think the rules are pretty easy to go by when you broke them down like that. One thing I was thinking, I know we're going to get to it in a future show. It's going to be funny how some of these bad contracts people are going to try and get off. Like, do the Wizards want to get John Wall off their books? Possibly. One of these expansion teams might want to take a flyer on a guy who's hurt, expensive, but is a big name value. And same with like Blake Griffin and other people.
Yeah.
It's going to be really fun breaking all this down.
Yeah. So what we're going to do for those who are listening is we're going to go week by week, and we're going to go team by team on the protection. So in the upcoming weeks, this is a large series we're going to be doing. It'll be the 3 of us, and then there'll be some other hoopball pros in here with us as well. We're going to go team by team, or we're going to decide and choose between the 3 of us who we feel is the best 8 players on each team to protect. And we're going to build that player pool. And at the very end, we're going to draft. We're going to draft for Seattle. We're going to draft for Louisville, and we're going to pick the best possible teams on the expansion draft. And then that'll be at the very end of this podcast series. So, all right, you guys want to get started on a team?
Yep.
Let's
all right, so we're going to go alphabetical order. So, Santino, why don't you go ahead and start us off with your thoughts on Atlanta?
Exciting. So yeah, we have the Hawks, a young, very non-winning team. Not too much experience, but not many bad contracts out here. As you mentioned with the rules, anybody who's entering free agency is off the table. So that sums out Jeff Teague's expiring contract, Chandler Parsons' expiring contract. I don't think you were going there anyway, but Vince Carter, Nene, all these people on the roster. So we'll get them out of the way right there. And you said restricted free agents if they were chosen. So
the way that goes is if you select a restricted free agent. So Atlanta's got DeAndre Bembry is the first one I'm looking at. He's a restricted free agent. So if the first team in the expansion was to select him, he would immediately then therefore be a free agent. So he could choose to sign with that team that selected him, or he could choose to walk and go somewhere else. So that's kind of an iffy if you're selecting. So
Bembry, Labissiere, and Damian Jones, 3 guys who are probably like in the realm of the pool that they would be able to choose from, are all restricted free agents. And won't make it for them. So they're pretty dwindled down. If we look at their top 4 players, John Collins is a lock. Trae Young's a lock. Clint Capella's a lock. Cam Reddish is a lock. DeAndre Hunter. That's 5 right there. Kevin Huerter, 6. And then this is where it gets interesting, guys. We have Dewayne Dedmon at $13 million a year. I don't think they keep him. It doesn't make sense for them to keep him. Then you got pretty much Bruno Fernando. Brandon Goodwin is a team option. So they only have 3 people on this team that aren't free agents, aren't restricted free agents to choose from, and they can only keep, I believe I said 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, they can only keep one of them. So it's probably between Dedmon, Fernando, and who was the last one? I don't know. Maybe just Dedmon and Fernando. Yeah. And now I'm assuming they're going to try and get rid of that $13 million for Dedmon now that they have the chance to. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
I think they might keep Dedmon though, because with Capella's injury history, and they're not paying too many people right now as it is with most of them on their rookie contracts.
So I'm looking at here, and like I said, every team has to select one player to protect, but they can select up to 8 players. Now, we don't have to select all 8 either. Sometimes teams might not want to do that. In this scenario, like I said with Santino, I agree. It's going to be Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, Young, Reddish, Collins, and Huerter are pretty much a lock. Those are ones that you can't go wrong with. Then you got a lot of free agents and restricted free agents, and you got Vince Carter that's retiring, so he's not even going to be around either. So that's a tough one. Dewayne Dedmon with his contract, do they let him go? Do they keep him? I mean, that's $13 million. They've got Clint Capella there now for their big, and now that John Collins is healthy back again, do they need that extra big? So what do you think? Do you guys think we're good on those? So Atlanta.
Yeah, if you don't have to keep 8, then you could probably just keep it like it is.
Yeah, I would say they just keep those 6 and let maybe Fernando, because he's only on a million and a half contract. They keep him because that's just really cheap for depth. Brandon Goodwin's probably gone. He's a team option anyway, and I think they let, even if they don't, if neither of us for Seattle or Louisville choose Dewayne Dedmon, he's still back on the team. But I mean, for a chance to get rid of $13 million over the next 3 years for a team that can use him, I mean, doesn't need the space, but is not going to start him when everybody's healthy. I think he's the easy call to put on the bubble.
Okay, so we got Trae, Collins, Capella, Reddish, Huerter, and Hunter. Hunter. That's hard to say back to back. So we have those. That's ones we're gonna go with for keepers on Atlanta, right?
I can't believe Scal BCA is 24 years old.
He's right? He played at Kentucky a while back, and he's been in the league for a minute. He was at Sacramento for a while, and then traded around to Portland, and then on to Atlanta. So he's been.
He might be worth. I mean, they could keep him if they wanted to, but
they could. But he would be a free agent right out the gate. So he could walk. You know what I'm saying? So that's the only problem with him. So we got those guys there that they're keeping. So that puts Fernando and Bruno Fernando in the running for the player pool.
Yeah.
And Dewayne Dedmon. Looks like those two are in the player pool, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we got two players. Yeah, 2 players out of Atlanta. And this could be the same way when we start going down to all these teams. But when we get to the next team, it starts to get really interesting. So let's move on now to Boston. Boston's got some interesting players out there with some interesting contracts. Will, let's let you take this one. What do you think to start off with this on this?
Well, they got the obvious young talent, with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker. They would keep him, obviously. I think they would keep Marcus Smart, Gordon Hayward. He's got a big contract, but I think they have to keep him. And probably Daniel Tice. Anybody else y'all think they would try to keep? I got to look at their contracts.
Yeah, well, Gordon Hayward has a player option for $34 million, and I honestly think he's going to opt out. It's a weaker free agent class.
Really?
We know in 2020 2020, 2021, it's going to be a bigger contract. If he wants a long-term contract and has the chance to get it right now, it's going to be up against a weaker class, and he's going to get paid top dollar because of that. Maybe DeMar DeRozan opts out as well, and those are the two big guys going into free agency. But if DeRozan stays with the Spurs for 1 year, you got to think Gordon Hayward's top 3-4 free agents this summer. If I'm looking to cash out, I'm trying to cash out now, so I don't even know if he'd be available for this draft.
I don't know. When it comes to me and Gordon Hayward, that's a lot for a team that $34 million is a lot. If you just start looking at their other contracts, I mean, $34 million player option is the highest one that they have. Kemba Walker's on a pretty decent sized one. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They just re-signed Jaylen Brown for a pretty significant one. So, and with the salary and the way that the revenue is right now because of the shutdown, that may lower the salary cap. And if that lowers the salary cap, that may have a big impact on a lot of teams for keeping certain players. But at the same time, we're talking this expansion. That's the perfect time to bring the expansion in because you lower that salary cap and it forces teams to let go of some stars that they have, which opens the stars to go to other teams like Louisville or going to Seattle. So that's a big chunk of change. On my list, I didn't have them keeping him. My guess is
it would be smart. It would be really sneaky and smart to let him go because I mean he's making around $33 million, but he's playing like a $15 million player.
Exactly right. And think about what kind of star power that would be for a team like Louisville or Seattle to have that name.
Oh yeah, they would love that.
You know what I'm saying? They would love it. And they'd pick it up, and that would save so much money on the cap space. So let's go back to a little bit of history on that cap space thing. Talking about Gordon Hayward in 2004. The Phoenix Suns actually enticed the Bobcats to take one of their players because they wanted to get rid of a contract. So I'm looking down here. In 2004, the Suns paid $3 million plus a first-round pick to entice Charlotte to select Jahidi White off their roster so they can get rid of his contract. So isn't that pretty interesting? They're giving up money and draft picks for the expansion team to take somebody off their books.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that a little bit.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, if Gordon Hayward opts into his contract, I could see them trying to get rid of him so they can have that $34 million in space to maybe sign a big man, Drummond, someone like that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if he opts into it. That's the question for me. If he wants to cash in for his last long-term contract this year with a weak free agent market, I think he does. Or does he take that $34 million and try and cash in next year, which I don't think he's going to get the same amount of money next year that he would get this year.
No, like Will said, I think he's playing like a $15 million man, 34. So. All right, guys, a little bit of trivia. If any of the hoop ballers out there can answer this question. So whenever the Suns offered up Jahidi White, Charlotte actually took him in the draft, in the expansion draft. Who did the Suns go and sign with all that cap space? That's a hoop ball trivia question for there. Anybody can answer that question. The Suns signed somebody. 2004, the Suns signed somebody to take up that cap space, and they did pretty well on their signing. So we'll let it go for a few minutes, see if somebody can answer it.
Was it question. Steve Nash?
It was Steve Nash. Look at you go. It was Steve Nash.
Yeah, I didn't even let the viewers think about it, Santino.
I know he left the Mavericks around 2003, 2004, but I wasn't sure exactly the year.
Yeah, and he went on to win the next two MVPs once he got to the Suns. So I think they did pretty well with that enticing of Charlotte to take that player, right?
Yeah, pretty well.
That's pretty good.
We help a lot of teams out here in Charlotte.
Yeah. Okay, well, you help us out with the – yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we got Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Daniel Tice. Are we going to put Gordon Hayward in the player pool? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, either way, he's either going to be in the player pool or he's a free agent in my eyes. I don't think they keep him.
Yeah, let's put him in there.
But I think the Celtics would keep 8. I would say they probably keep Big Rob.
Yeah.
As another one. And maybe, how many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4. That'd be 6. I know they liked Grant Williams, what he did this year. Romeo Langford, Carson Edwards, they'd probably keep one of them.
Okay.
I would say 2 of those 3 guys would probably be kept, if not. Or we can just make this expansion draft a little bit nicer and throw some extra people in there.
What do you think about Enes Kanter?
He's also going to be a free agent, I believe, at the end.
He's got a $5 million player option.
Yeah, I think he expected to have a bigger role, and he wound up not getting that because he doesn't really fit well with them. Yeah, and his defense. So I think he's going to go on to a new team.
Yeah,
as he has been.
We'll put him in the player pool. Tremont Waters.
I would keep him if I was Boston.
Really?
I mean, for $5 million, I think he's worth more than $5 million. His offensive game, but I would also keep Semi Ojeleye. He's a good young defensive body, especially if Gordon Hayward's gone. You would need that depth.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna keep Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum. Okay, those are all for sure. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna let Gordon Hayward go into the player pool. Carson Edwards and Romeo Langford. What's your guys' decision on him? They're gonna keep them?
I think they keep at least one of them.
If I was me, I'd keep Carson Edwards. He's on a 4-year, $4 million contract versus 4-year, $7 million for Romeo Langford.
Yeah, we'll keep Edwards there.
Keep Edwards. We'll throw Romeo Langford into the player pool. Okay, so he's in the player pool. And what about Grant Williams? What was the decision on him?
I think they keep him. They liked what he did this year. He was a pretty good role player for them, and I think he's only $2 million. So
yeah,
to me, that's a yeah. We'll keep him.
Okay, that's 7. And Enes Kanter. Are we keeping Enes Kanter over Semi Ojeleye or Robert Williams? Which one of those three?
Ooh, I'd say Big Rob. I know Will wants Kanter. So Doug, do you have how do you break this tie over here?
Well, it's Robert Williams is a 2-year, $3.9 million contract. He did well for them. Enes Kanter is a pretty big name, but I think Daniel Tice has really kind of outplayed Enes Kanter there. So I really think that Robert Williams is more of a long-term plan.
That's true.
For long-term. Enes Kanter, like you said, he wasn't really happy there. So even if he does opt in for that 1 year, he may leave them to where Robert Williams is going to stick around for a little bit longer. They may be able to entice him to stay around long-term and help on that rebuild with those young guys out there. So I'm going to say Robert Williams is going to be kept, and we're going to drop I'll be the tiebreaker there. We'll drop Enes Kanter into the player pool.
So you're going to pick Carson Edwards over Ojeleye?
I think Ojeleye is a pretty good player, but they also need another guard in that system, like a backup guard there.
And Semi Ojeleye has only got a team option for $1.6 million for 1 more year, I believe it is. Yeah. So I think
Edwards, I was a huge fan of Edwards in college, but with the Celtics, he's a lot of shots to get a few amount of points.
He did really well this year, though. Now, whenever Kemba Walker was injured in the initial part of the season, Carson Edwards did really well, I think, on that team. He did pretty good out there with them.
They were playing the other point guard a lot, though. What's his name? Wanamaker.
And Wanamaker is a restricted free agent, so he's not going to be a factor in this draft. But, yes, you're right. Wanamaker did play a lot, too, out there.
So did Langford a little bit.
Romeo Langford's got a lot of potential. He's the Indiana guy. He's close here to Louisville. He was good in Indiana. I'm happy to see he went to the league, and he's a good possibility. He's a good option. But we talked about Romeo Langford or Carson Edwards. Carson Edwards is what you guys said out of those two. Those guards.
The contract it is better for the long haul, and you have him a little longer.
Right. Okay.
He's really short, though.
He's really short.
He's really short.
So who else? We lost Vincent Poirier too. He's in the player pool.
Mm-hmm.
Javonte Green, Gershon Yabusele.
Yeah. Taco Falls on the 2-way.
Yeah. So would that count in the player pool 2-way?
2-ways. I'm not sure what the latest collective bargaining agreement says because 2-ways were not a factor in 2004. They weren't around then. So I'm not sure how the league would handle that this year.
I'd say no.
No? Okay.
That should be, kept with the organization they're with, I think.
He's probably going to get a decent contract from one of these teams just for the fan attendance when we do get fans.
Yeah, that's true.
They also need names to bring. Well, when you're a new team, you're going to get that fandom anyway, and people are going to show out for you. But just having the names and name value, even though he hasn't done anything, just we'll give that even more incentive to, hey, let's go see this guy play or let's see this team.
Sign Enes Kanter and Taco Fall. Sign both of them.
Sign both of them. There you go. There's name recognition there, and that's what a new team needs for sure. For sure. So, All right, we'll go ahead and go on to Brooklyn next. They'll be the third team. We are going to knock out 3 teams tonight. Look at you guys go.
Yeah.
Superstars.
You definitely thinking about even just Taco Fall is not a good productive player. Well, we don't know yet, but just the name value, like you mentioned, and it's the fact that we know that these teams aren't going to be good in year 1, year 2.
Typically, they don't make the playoffs, right?
So just having people with a big name to get people in the stands, knowing that you're not going to really watch a great product for the first few years, is something that new owners who just doled out at least $1 billion and then some are going to want to think about as well.
But you got to also think about college. Now, whenever you're talking about college, one of the most frustrating things I find with Kentucky is that I like to follow the development of players, young players. And in Kentucky, with the one and done, you really don't get that anymore, So it's, with these guys, you're saying you're not going to win the first year. Yeah, you're right. But at least it gives people an ability to follow and see the growth of the young team, if you get some young players in there. So that's always nice to see, too, whenever you're talking about, new guys in the league.
That's true.
So, yeah.
Yep.
All right, Brooklyn's up next, y'all. What you got?
Obviously, keeping Durant and Irving.
Dinwiddie.
Really?
It was a tough decision.
Dinwiddie,
Yeah,
DeAndre
Dinwiddie.
Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan?
I mean, Durant and
They
Kyrie
have
Irving
to.
really like him. They're good
Yeah.
friends. So
Right.
those
Kinda
4, I
have
would
to.
say. Yeah, you can't go against them.
Yep.
Karis LeVert, $16 million. I know they want to use him for trade bait, but they're not going to let that guy go for nothing. So he's definitely got to stay there as well.
Yeah.
Joe Harris is a free agent off the player pool, which is sad. Garrett Temple has a team option, so he may be available, maybe not. Taurean Prince, his contract's going to jump from $3 to $12 million. I don't know. He's on the fence for me. I'll see what you guys think. Jared Allen, definitely.
He can go.
Think he could go? Yeah, I don't need to keep him either, but we'll see who else. I think Jared Allen's a definite. He's got to be kept.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jared Allen's got so much potential, and I think we've talked about, the 3 of us especially have talked about that before. Whenever DeAndre Jordan wasn't playing, it really was just impressive to see Jared Allen get in there and do his thing. So I think he's definitely like a keeper for a backup big for sure.
They'll definitely keep Claxton, their young big man. I think they like him a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the guys, Taurean Prince we mentioned, Garrett Temple we can put up there. Musa, Kurix, that's 4.
Kurix on a good contract.
Yeah, they might keep him.
They like him.
Theo Pinson has a team option, but we can put him up there. And Lawawu is injured, so I don't think they want to keep him.
So Lawalu will go into the player pool. Kurix, we decided to keep him?
I say keep Kurix.
Okay. And then what about Taurean Prince? How many people we got now? We got 1, 2.
No, Taurean Prince can go.
Taurean Prince can go?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, if we keep Kurix, that's 8. So
and what about Joe Harris?
He's a free agent.
Yeah.
Free agent. Okay.
So Durant, Kyrie, Spencer, Jordan, LeVert, Allen. That's 6. Claxton would be 7. And then I'm guessing that they would be able to choose between Taurean Prince's $12 million or Kurix's $1.2 million. Would be like the top guys on that. Yeah. I would stay with either Kurix or even if Pinson opts in, Pinson or Kurix, I would let Taurean Prince and his $12.5 million go.
Yeah. Well, that's a good name to have in a player pool. I think one of the teams would definitely jump on that one and one of the higher draft picks there.
Yeah,
for sure. So
I think he's a better name to have in the player pool anyway than Kurix.
Yeah. And I mean he's pretty good, but just for that team, he's not gonna be able to do much. He just needs to be on a different team, I think, anyway.
And I think with Taurean Prince, again, it goes back to that Brooklyn team and just having the minutes and just having him on the floor longer and being, not relegated to that 3rd, 4th, 5th player option there. That if he had a little bit more minutes, a little bit more role, I think he would really take it and run with it. And he's got a good potential ahead of him though, and his potential is really good there. So
be really good on an expansion team.
There you go, absolutely, and that might be what he needs. for sure.
Yeah. And he's a forward tweener. And when Kevin Durant comes back, he's the forward tweener. So, I mean, Taurean Prince's role is going to get diminished anyway. I don't think it's enough of a role for him next year to pay him almost $13 million for the next 2 years.
Okay. All right. Very good. So one of the things that we didn't really mention and talk about, and I want to kind of back up to, is the way that the draft works with the NBA draft itself. Are you guys familiar with how that works on who gets what pick?
Yeah, so the two expansion teams are going to get the first 2 picks of the draft. And I remember when we were speaking about it, it's whoever gets the first pick in the expansion draft, then the other person gets the first pick in the NBA draft.
Right, exactly. And that's how it ends up working. Now, for hoop ball purposes and the way we're going to do things, I don't think we're going to go on an NBA draft and talk about that. We'll get the expansion. So what I wanted to kind of throw out to you guys and maybe to the listeners, and they can mention, is if we do it a way to where we do the expansion draft, but then also do kind of a free agent draft, to where we kind of go, instead of an NBA draft, go with a free agent draft and try to see about, because the expansion teams would be enticing to some free agents. You'd be the face of the new franchise, for time to time. So we might look at doing that. I mean, what do you guys think about doing something like that? Or
yeah, that sounds interesting.
I don't know how it would work, but we can.
It's going to be a lot of research. That's going to go deep.
Yeah, so we have a lot of research to go ahead of us. So hopefully we'll be able to see how that works out. So
a guy, we mentioned him a few times, a guy like Gordon Hayward in free agency, if he opts to do that, he's going to get he would get a big contract from one of these 2 expansion teams to be the face of this franchise going forward. And it would be hard for some people to say no to that. I mean, if someone's offering you $30 million a year to be like the guy in a new city, in a new basketball town, to be loved and praised, even if you lose, it'll be hard for some people to say no to that.
And, he go ahead, Will.
I would say the only way this wouldn't happen with the expansion teams being able to pay people like this is if they take on like Gordon Hayward, Blake Griffin, John Wall. They pick up all the big names, the big contracts. They won't have money for, free agents and stuff. But
yeah, right. And you also got to think with Gordon Hayward, like we said, he's playing like the $15 million man. He may actually take a short pay cut for that first year, to prove himself, new team. And these players that are free agents with these expansion teams, they may not want to sign long-term contracts there. They may want to sign a 1 year or a 1-and-1 to get there, just to see how the team kind of is going to be built and how the whole thing's going to go before they sign a free agent deal. So he may sign up for 1 year at $15 million, and that would really help him out and get him some help there, which is an option too.
Yeah, we've seen that. JJ Redick kind of changed the game on that one a couple of years ago when he signed that big $20-something million contract with the Sixers for that 1 year. Mm-hmm. So that's actually I didn't cross my mind until you said that, but that's a very good possibility. And a guy like him, I don't think for 1 year, $15 million, I think they would pay him $30 million. Maybe not 30, but if JJ Redick got over 20 something, you'd have to think a guy that you're going to be the number 1 option on your team could make 25, 26, whatever money you have left over for that 1 year, prove yourself. And then if you wanted to leave to go play with a contender or get a better contract for a contender, or just re-up there for maybe a couple $1 million less or his last big contract. But that's a very good option as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you got people that are hitting free agency too that played in Kentucky, like Anthony Davis. He's going to be a free agent this year.
Don't you say
that. I know Santino is a Laker fan, and I am too. But I'm also
shout out to Daniel Peterson, who's apparently a Lakers fan also.
There you go. Yeah. Very good. Daniel Peterson. Shout out to all the hoop ball fans that are watching the show tonight. We got a really big series ahead of us with this expansion thing, and I'm hoping you guys have a lot of input for us and join along with us on this trip. It's going to be a lot of research. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I don't really want to jump into a new team. We'll keep that for next episode. I think it'll be next Wednesday when we jump back into this. So what do you guys want to wrap it up with? We got a few more minutes here. We'll take some questions. If you guys have questions to put in the post, we'll answer as best we can. But this expansion draft was last occurred in 2004. by the Charlotte Bobcats, and it was a 1-team draft. This is going to be a 2-team expansion that we're doing here. So it'll be interesting to see. So
and I wouldn't be surprised if these 2 teams, got good pretty fast. I remember the last expansion that I really remember was in the NFL with the Jaguars and the Panthers. And both of those teams went to the playoffs like within the first 5 years. So as long as they don't get overzealous and try to, spend too much money to get the name and just do the process correctly, they could fit right into the league and, just be successful.
I'm not sure, but wasn't the Las Vegas team in NHL, were they an expansion team or did they just move? Because I know they won the Stanley Cup. I don't really know much about hockey, but I thought they were an expansion team and they won their first year. So I guess it's possible. I don't see it in the NBA, but
oh no, not a championship the first year. No,
I can see them competing, especially in the Eastern Conference with the way the Eastern Conference is.
Yeah, if Louisville ends up in the Eastern Conference, they may have a shot if they pick up some good free agents. But you really got to look at your salaries when you're drafting if you plan on going for those big fish free agents too. So if you draft in the expansion draft some great players but have really high contracts, you're not going to be able to go after those free agents in the off season. So you're going to be limited there as well. So if you have an option for that, then you may want to draft some lower contracts, and open up that cap space for free agency. So there's a lot of talk in Seattle online about their new arena, and I know that they already have an investment board as well. I do know that Louisville has investors waiting in the wings to sign for a new team. Louisville has passed the bills through the local cities around Louisville in the same county, and all the cities have approved the bill to expand. So there's definitely backing there from both cities. So, all right, Daniel Peterson posted a comment here. We'll ask, I think the players are more thinking about themselves as a product more than investing in themselves better, and it can make the expansion better. Okay, what do you guys think about that? Yeah, investing in themselves as a product more and investing in themselves better.
Yeah, that's kind of like the whole one year big contract. Thinking about yourself, making your money, putting yourself into the spotlight, and having your own team. I mean, when the Thunder were really good when they first came into the league, when they had Russ, KD, Harden, Ibaka, and they just made the championship, and they kind of blew it up. Apparently, there was rumblings Harden wanted to be his own team. I mean, if you're going to have superstar players who want their own team in the spotlight, and I mean, you're not going to get much help maybe with an expansion team, but you're definitely going to get the spotlight, and you're definitely going to get your own team, and you're going to get paid to do it. So I see exactly where he's coming from.
Right.
Yeah, and on the other hand, I can see guys that may end up going there that didn't necessarily want to go there, but when they see that they have the team to themselves in the spotlight, like I remember Chris Webber didn't want to go to Sacramento, and that turned out to be the best thing for his career, and then he never wanted to leave, and he still is part of the organization now. So, going to a new spot could, boost you more than you ever would think it would also.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, if you remember this last season, Spencer Dinwiddie was talking about some sort of, player, talking about investing in himself. He had some sort of player credits where you can actually legitimately invest in a player, and it would, their investors would make money if the players did well. And did you guys hear about that? It was like some player credit or something.
Yeah.
It was a really weird concept.
And he was trying to negotiate a very articulate contract, and the league shot it down. But Spencer Dinwiddie's different, and I like the way, and I like the way he's thinking and coming at it. But it again speaks to people are trying to brand themselves, and I mean, if you're a guy who likes to shoot the basketball and you're not getting the shots on your team, and you can go to a new team and get 20, maybe you might not win, but you can have fun and get 25 a game, like a Carmelo Anthony back in the day. I mean, it'll be enticing to go to these teams and have a rabid fan base watch you do what you love.
Another thing I saw, like a lot of, players obviously watching The Last Dance, and they were showing the old footage of the Seattle Supersonics, playing against Jordan. And I saw a lot of players like Isaiah Thomas commenting, bring the Sonics back, bring the Sonics back. I saw Kevin Durant like that, so it's like, and that's where he started. So it's possible. I'd never see KD going back to OKC, but he could go back to, Seattle to finish his career. I could see that.
Yeah, towards the end of his career, yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, and I know Kevin Love posted on Twitter too about Seattle. He's like, why doesn't Seattle have a team again? Bring it back, So I think Seattle is a definite team. I think if they expand more than one team, Seattle will get one for sure. There's just no reason that we can't. There's just so much rich history there, and Louisville. We during the ABA, the Kentucky Colonels won the last ABA championship, and they played against the Golden State Warriors, believe it or not.
Okay.
So, and then a little history behind that. The reason why the Kentucky Colonels did not get absorbed into the NBA was because our biggest rival was the Chicago Bulls. And the owner of the Chicago Bulls was on the expansion board of governors. And so he didn't want the ABA Colonels to join the league. So a little bit of Chicago rivalry. And then who ended up getting our number one player at the time, Artis Gilmore, in the expansion in the draft? It was Chicago. So
I do have one question before we go, because the Colonels can't be their new name.
Agreed.
Get a team. What is the feeling from a guy who lives in Kentucky or knows the community? What would you think would be an appropriate name, or some names to just throw around?
So history says that the Kentucky Colonels, our mascot was a Confederate colonel. Now with today's day and age, and the Confederates and all that, people are not for that. They've actually paintballed and TP'd Confederate soldier statues and old generals that are awarded a statue and here in our own city. So I agree with you, Santino. I think Colonels is a great historical name for the ABA and brings back that history. I think if you just tweaked it just enough and called it the Kentucky Colonials, it might carry a little bit of that history again into the NBA with this expansion team, but still change it just enough to not refer to the Colonel and the Confederate Colonel. So you could change it to that. You could say, you also got Louisville. You call it Louisville something, or call it Kentucky something. If you called it the Kentucky Colonials, all the Louisville fans would be upset. If you called it the Louisville Colonials, all the Kentucky fans would be upset. So if you kind of relegated it to something that's kind of like the bluegrass something or other, call it the blue, because we are the bluegrass state. So if you call it the Bluegrass Stallions because we have the Derby here, or you could call it the River City Raiders because we live on the river. Louisville is considered River City because the Ohio River runs right through our city. So River City Raiders, Bluegrass Stallions, or you can call us the Spires, or Muhammad Ali is from here, and he's a great figure in our city, in our town, and nationwide and worldwide. You could call us the Bluegrass Jab, something like that. I mean, there's so many different options. We're big for the Mammoth Cave, the largest cave, underground cave in the nation. We could have a mammoth for our logo. There's just so many options. Yeah. And I'm sure
I think normally it seems like normally every time there's an expansion, the fans are able to vote on the team name. Like maybe the state narrows it down to like 5 names, and then the fans get to vote on it. So I think that would be a good idea too. Right. We could do that here with Hoopball if you want it.
Yeah, absolutely. We could run a poll like that, and we can get a name together before the actual expansion draft.
Yeah.
The Kentucky Colonel's name is actually copywritten now by a group of other individuals in the state. The governor hands out a community award that they call them the Kentucky Colonel. You're awarded a Kentucky Colonel, handed out by the governor. So that name itself has a lot of copyright issues with it right now too, and so I don't think that name is something that we will roll with once they finally get a team.
The idea of the fans naming it is fun too. I know in Hartford we just got a minor league baseball team a few years ago, and we called it the Yard Goats. I didn't actually pick that name, but yeah, it was really weird when it first happened. I said, "Who's picking the Yard Goats?"
Right.
But now I like it. Flows off my tongue, and I like it. So I think it's a fun thing, and we could do it here. Have people chime in or whatnot, but. Yeah, it's fun to pick your own name, but the ones you made, there were a lot of good options that you threw out
Yeah,
there.
a lot of good options in there.
Yeah, I've seen those talked about through here. They've been in the newspaper, and people talk. But Colonels has a
Except
great
for the
history.
jab. The jab was terrible.
The jab. Well, that was thrown out there, and then we also have the trappers because Daniel Boone is from it was buried over here in Frankfort, Kentucky. So they people would say the bluegrass trappers because he was a big raccoon trapper and beaver trapper.
Can't use that nowadays with hip hop.
Yeah, that's true. Dabbing in the streets. But hey, guys, we're gonna close it up here. We've been on here a while, and we appreciate everyone tuning in to us. Thanks again for being loyal to Hoop Ball, and we'll catch you guys next time. If you aren't premium members of Hoop Ball right now, everything's free. But when the season kicks off again, make sure you guys subscribe to the premium Hoop Ball. We really support our fans, and we like it when they support us too. So I'll catch the two of you next time. I'll catch all you Hoop Ballers next time. You guys stay safe, okay?
Follow us on Twitter.
Absolutely. At KY Pro Basketball, at Santino Cacone, at William is Bill. And we'll be sure to answer any questions you guys may have on fantasy, basketball, or anything in general. So
Ed likes the River City Raiders. I like that one too, Ed.
River City Raiders. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's pretty good.
I like that one.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.